This is Story Recapped. Today I'm gonna explain a sci-fi horror film called Species 3. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. Dr. Bruce Abbot drives an ambulance transporting the corpse of a human-alien hybrid clone named Eve. Although he knows that Eve and the original hybrid creature are destructive and dangerous, he wants to clone Eve's DNA to create something better from it and understand the civilization that sent the genetic code to Earth. Soon, the medic accompanying Abbot notices that they veered off course, so he tells Abbot to pull over. The medic tries alerting the military convoy following them that they're lost, but Abbot pulls out a gun and instructs him to put down the radio. Abbot tells him to get out of the ambulance, but a half-breed alien boy in the back of the ambulance shoots tentacles through the glass and kills the medic. Moments later, Eve gets up and starts giving birth to an alien infant. As the baby comes out of her, the half-breed strangles Eve with his tentacles and snaps her neck. Abbot runs off with a newborn alien as a helicopter searches for the ambulance. Agent Wasak soon arrives at the scene and notices that the ambulance driver is missing, so he orders a full autopsy on Eve and asks an officer to find the driver. Days later, a university student named Dean leads a group on a tour of the Ashland generating facility. He shows them the prototype fusion reactor that will soon replace the outdated generators, but he can't demonstrate it because only the department head has an access key. Afterward, Dean leaves the group to head back to the university and attend Abbott's class. Upon his arrival, Abbott scolds Dean for being late before continuing his lecture. After class, Dr. Nicholas Turner approaches Dean to admonish him for taking on too many projects in different fields without showing results. Abbott observes them from a distance and overhears Turner threatening to cut off Dean's funding. When Abbott gets home, he immediately looks for his pet cat, but he finds it dead in the basement. As he looks around his basement lab, a young girl emerges and tells him that she's hungry. The girl notes that she wants lobster because she saw the Red Lobster commercial several times on TV. While having dinner, the child hints that she wants to be called Sara after seeing the brand name on a box of cakes. Later, Abbott puts Sara to bed and tells her not to leave the house because it's dangerous for her to be outside. He explains that her childhood will only last for days instead of years because she's an alien species created from a DNA sequence received in a transmission from outer space. He vows to protect Sara because he believes that she will someday tell him why her DNA was sent to Earth. A doctor soon finishes the autopsy on Eve and informs Wasak that she was pregnant and has given birth. Wasak instructs him to burn the body and avoid putting the pregnancy and childbirth on the records. One night, a sickly man visits Abbott at his office at the university to look for Sara. Abbott notices that the man is bleeding, so he attempts to call for help. However, he puts the phone down when the man reveals that he was the boy in the ambulance. The man then discloses that there are other half-breeds who are sick like him. Abbott examines his blood and finds no signs of viral infection, so he gives him antihistamines to stabilize him. The man begs Abbott to take him to Sara, but he gets weaker as pus leaks out of his face and neck. Soon, the man dies after tentacles burst out of his stomach. The following day, Abbott meets with Dean and shows him the half-breed's corpse. Abbott discloses that the half-breed tracked him down for help because he knew that his species was doomed. When Dean asks him about his plans for the corpse, Abbott reveals that he intends to do something that will earn him recognition in the pantheon of science. He tells Dean that he will strip out the human DNA from the half-breed to create a disease-resistant alien species. At home, Sara transforms into a full-grown adult after a few hours inside a cocoon. A while later, Turner arrives at Abbott's house to talk to him about the funding for his experiments. When he enters the house, Turner sees Sara in the living room. Sara discloses that Abbott is not home, but she asks him to stay. Soon, she seduces him and starts unbuttoning his shirt, but she immediately realizes that he's not a viable mate for her. Sara tells him to leave, but Turner forces himself on her. Sara retaliates by changing into her alien form and stabbing his skull with her tentacles. Later, Dean and Abbott bring the half-breed's chopped-up body to the house. When they get inside, Abbott discovers the empty cocoon and realizes Sara has grown. He looks for Sara around the house, but he only finds Turner's body. Dean wants to report Turner's death to the authorities, but Abbott warns him that the authorities will suspect them of murder because they won't believe that an alien killed him. Dean agrees to help Abbott after the professor promises to share credit for their discoveries. While Abbott and Dean are getting rid of Turner's body that night, Sara stops by a frat party to look for a viable mate, but she ends up rejecting the men who dare approach her. Later that evening, a woman sees Sara sitting alone on a bench, so she offers her a ride home. When they reach the train tracks, Sara asks the woman to stop the car. As soon as the train arrives, Sara chases after it in the hopes of getting in touch with a half-breed male passenger, but she trips and falls beside the tracks. The woman gets out of the car and discovers that Sara severed her arm on the tracks when she fell. She runs back to her car in terror when she sees Sara's arm regenerating rapidly. The next day, Dean returns to Abbott's house to help him dissect the half-breed's corpse. As soon as he gets in the house, Sara grabs him by the throat and pushes him against the wall. So Dean explains that he's working for Abbott to convince her to let him go. When Dean tells Abbott that he just met Sara, Abbott asks him to stay away from her and refrain from revealing what they do in his lab. Abbott notes that all the half-breeds will end up like the corpse they're dissecting, but Sara will survive because of her superior genes. He reveals that the half-breeds are unstable because their mothers are human, while their father is a human astronaut infected by an alien strain. He asserts that Sara is almost perfect despite having the same father, because her mother is only half human. Sara interrupts their conversation to notify Abbott that she's going out. Dean expresses concern that something might happen to her outside, but Abbott assures him that Sara won't get in trouble because she won't find genetic partners since she's made of a pure strain alien DNA. Sara tracks down the half-breed passenger in a motel and attempts to mate with him, but she rejects him once she discovers his disease. When she gets home that night, Dean attempts to teach her how to play chess. However, she learns instantly by picking up a book and beats Dean after only a few moves. When Dean returns to his dorm, he finds his roommate, Hastings, checking out an alluring woman's website. Hastings gets intrigued because the owner, Amelia, is looking for biochemists with experience in DNA extrapolation. After sending an email, Hastings immediately gets an automated reply asking him to provide details about his previous lab work. Dean gets concerned that the owner is tracking them down, so he tells Hastings to turn the computer off. The next day, while Dean and Abbott take blood samples from Sara in the lab, a half-breed attacks Sara and strangles her with his tentacles. As the two aliens fight each other, Abbott pulls Dean into a secure room and releases hydrochloride gas to kill both of them. Dean gets concerned about Sara, but Abbott contends that they already have everything they need because he harvested Sara's eggs on the first night of her maturity. When the half-breed starts to force himself on Sara, Dean decides to save her, but the male alien tosses him to the ceiling and gnaws on his leg when he lands. Abbott attacks the half-breed with a bone saw, allowing Dean to take Sara to the next room. As Abbott attempts to get away, the half-breed impales his chest with a tentacle before dropping dead. Abbott realizes that he's dying, so he instructs Dean to create the new species from Sara's eggs and warns him that the half-breeds will keep coming for her. While Dean is treating his leg injury, he tells Sara that he has no intention of creating a new species from her eggs. Sara hints that she wants him to propagate her species, but Dean explains that there are things that they shouldn't do even if they have the means to do it. After burning Abbott's body in the swamp, Dean returns to the lab only to shut it down. Later that evening, Sara seduces Dean to convince him to continue Abbott's work, but he gets terrified when he sees her alien form in his mind. At the dorm, Hastings tells Dean that he heard back from Amelia after sending her some data that he found in Dean's notebook. Hastings starts questioning Dean about the notebook because Amelia thinks the data is perfect, even though it seems genetically impossible. Hastings thinks that Amelia is crazy because she asked him if he had any contact with alien life. Dean warns him that Amelia can track them down, but Hastings contends that she's harmless. On her way to the university, Amelia stops by a gas station to fill up her tank. When she goes to the bathroom, an attendant follows her and finds her covering a rash on her chest with makeup. Amelia copulates with the attendant and exits the bathroom a few minutes later. When the attendant's friends check on him, they find him dead with a hole in his head. Soon, Amelia arrives at the university and heads straight to Hastings' dorm room. After a bath, Amelia asks him to take her to his lab, but Hastings claims that his email was just a joke and his data was fake. However, Amelia knows that the data is accurate, so she threatens to hurt Hastings if she doesn't get what she wants. Later, Dean arrives outside the dorm room and sees Amelia through the mirror, so he flees downstairs. When he comes across a student in the hallway, he tries to force her back into her dorm room, but she gets scared of him and pulls away. As Dean hides in her room, Amelia arrives and kills the student. Amelia attempts to open the door, but she flees when she suddenly senses Sara nearby. Soon, Dean gets out of the girl's room and sees Amelia forcing Hastings into her car. He tries to catch up to her, but she's already driven away when he reaches the parking lot. Dean notices another car nearby, so he approaches it. Soon, Wasak rolls down the window and tells him to get in. Wasak asks Dean what Amelia wants with his roommate, so Dean explains that she probably needs someone with scientific knowledge to help her create a new species of aliens because they're about to go extinct. Wasak hints that he's from the government, but he's tracking down the alien in an unofficial capacity because the current administration doesn't consider aliens a priority. Dean takes Wasak back to the dorm and tells him that Amelia probably found Sara and brought Hastings to Abbot's lab. Wasak asks Dean to hack into Abbot's computers to find out Sara's weakness before they try confronting her. At the lab, Hastings can't make any progress on replicating the alien genes, so Amelia stabs him in the leg to make him work faster. When Sara asks Amelia if she intends to kill Hastings, Amelia stresses that it wouldn't matter if he dies because she can find other scientists. Back at the dorm, Dean informs Wasak that they can probably kill Amelia with hydrochloride gas, but Wasak contends that it's not good enough because it won't work on Sara. Sara attempts to leave the lab, but Amelia stops her and shows her the welts on her skin. Amelia warns her that Sara might also get sick after some time and tells her that she's the only hope for their species. Soon, Hastings attempts to inject DNA into Sara's ova cells to grow an alien embryo. However, the procedure is interrupted when Wasak and Dean throw a hydrochloric gas into the basement lab to help Hastings escape. Soon, Hastings comes out of the house carrying Sara's DNA and ova cells in a container, so they get into the car and drive away. Later, the trio breaks into the Ashland generating facility, not knowing that one of the aliens is following them. As soon as they get out of the car, Dean tosses the ova cells to Wasak and runs to the console to activate the fusion reactor using Turner's keycard. Hastings and Wasak spot the alien on the floor below them and realize she's following the eggs. The pair leads the alien away from Dean as he makes his way to the fusion reactor. When Dean reaches the door to the reactor room, Wasak tosses the eggs to him and heads to the control room. A guard soon finds Dean in the reactor room, but Amelia arrives and kills him. While Amelia is assaulting Dean, Sara slowly approaches them. Dean manages to activate the reactor with the remote, but he fails to close the shaft, leaving the power plant at risk of a meltdown. Suddenly, the container for the ova cells rolls off the floor. Amelia tries to reach for it, but it falls into the reactor core. Amelia tries to attack Dean again, but Sara grabs her with her tentacles and throws her off the platform. When Dean finally uses the remote to close the shaft, Amelia emerges and pulls Sara down. Amelia falls into the core before the shaft closes. Wasak and Hastings express relief when they learn that the containment door was closed before the reactor exploded. The next day, Wasak is on the news explaining that Turner was operating the reactor at the time of the blast, but they still don't know why it exploded. When Hastings goes to Abbot's house, he is perplexed to find a young boy inside. Sara soon emerges, so Hastings runs to the basement lab and sees Dean trying to fix the lighting. He asks Dean to explain, so Dean reveals that he managed to save Sara from falling into the reactor. He then discloses that he stripped away damaging strains from the half-breed DNA to create the boy. Days pass, and the boy transforms into a full-grown man, so Sara prepares to part ways with Dean and Hastings to be with her new mate. Before the new couple moves on, Dean asks why Sara decided to save him from Amelia, even when her eggs were already gone, and she no longer had any use for him. In response, Sara just tells him that he will probably find the answer someday. As the couple walks away, Hastings expresses concern that the aliens would destroy Earth when they propagate. Dean hints that there's no cause for worry because he tweaked the alien's chromosomes to make him sterile.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Turn on notifications. And leave a like, it really helps the channel out. Thank you for watching.